My all-time favorite racing game, the N64 classic F-Zero X, is a high-octane, futuristic racer in which you play as one of 30 racers on a number of gravity-defying, crazy tracks hovering miles above the above a planet's surface. Like, F-Zero X is one of the coolest, badass Nintendo games out there. And there's not even really any combat in it. It doesn't have, like, any story or lore. It just is a really good, hardcore racing game. And I do think that's the way to describe it, like a hardcore racing game. Because, like, Mario Kart is kind of designed to be something that anyone can get into and play. Diddy Kong Racing is probably a harder version of that. But compared to those two, F-Zero X takes a lot more skill, a lot more practice, a lot more repetition, a lot more study, a lot more willingness to deal with very real obstacles, including ones that can straight up destroy your vehicle. You can easily fall off the track in this game and fall to your doom, and it is incredible. It is such a shame we haven't gotten a real sequel to this game. You know, this is the last F-Zero game ever produced by Nintendo on Nintendo consoles. It's kind of very disappointing that we haven't gotten a true follow-up, but like, well, playing it again, like, well, what would they do better? Like, it's a lot like the Mario Party 2 thing that I brought up when I made that video, is that, like, well, what could they possibly do to top a sequel? Like, in a lot of ways, it feels that F-Zero X is fundamentally perfect, you know? Like, the mechanics are great, the game looks beautiful, it runs smoothly, it has 30 characters, several tracks, the game is just phenomenal. And I can't imagine that most players have beaten the game on every single difficulty level and mastered it. I have, and it was one of the greatest accomplishments it is one of the greatest accomplishments you can do on N64, and it absolutely is worth doing. But like the game has aged well. I would recommend, rather than looking forward to a new F-Zero game, just introducing new players to this classic one. In fact, this is probably one of the big reasons why I started this series of videos, the Nintendo Classics. There are so many great Nintendo games that kids today will never get to experience unless you, the older generation, introduce them to them. These games are timeless in a lot of ways. And F-Zero X, you know, it's an N64 game. It may not look like a modern game, but that doesn't mean it looks bad or if it's unplayable. If anything, I think it looks and plays a lot better than a lot of modern racing games. Like jumping in between buildings, like swerving in like between curves, like going around these giant, racing around these giant white things, like circular white things, like going around, like defying gravity, like it's all so seamless, right? But it comes off, it never gets old. In fact, the only reason I ever really stopped playing this game is that, like, I eventually ran out of stuff to do in it. Like, I beat every race, and now I can pretty consistently win anytime I pop the game in. It's almost a little bit sad in a way that this is one of those games that I've played so much, it hasn't become, it's not all that fun to me anymore. But that doesn't mean it's not a great game. You know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't great, I wouldn't have played it to death to begin with. And this is absolutely one of the best racing games on N64, and is absolutely one that you should check out. I consider it far superior to F-Zero GX. I consider it far superior to the original F-Zero. I consider it far superior to the Game Boy Advance games. This is the best game in the series, and probably one of the best futuristic racing games out there, and that needs to be acknowledged more often among Nintendo fans.